Welcome back. Today I'd like to talk to you about a wonderful neuro-linguistic programming understanding, which is called the map is not the territory. You might have heard this phrase before. It's quite famous. So I want to talk a little bit about what that means concerning what we believe to be reality. The map is not the territory. And then I want to apply it to spirituality, to our own practice, and allow this to help us understand why we need a true guru. So, let's get into it. In NLP, in neuro-linguistic programming, this principle is so big that you could say it is NLP. There is a wonderful book. I highly recommend this book. Anybody who is interested in NLP, I always tell them, go get this book. I'll have the link below, okay? That book on NLP, you could say that the majority of the book is just explaining this one principle. The map is not the territory. So what does that mean? Okay, this is the core of the NLP understanding. What does that mean? Well, it means you live in a dream world. Well, that's extremely yogic, isn't it? Okay, there's a very good reason that we could be interested in this very straightforward principle. The principle says you are taking information in through your five senses. That information comes up through the body's five senses. It's thrown into your brain, and your brain has these processes to delete, distort, and generalize that information. So you received a Niagara Falls of information every second, and the delete, distort, and generalize is squishing it down to a pixie cup. So instead of being overwhelmed constantly, you have a pixie cup of information every second. Just 5 to 9 parts. So instead of the whole Niagara Falls trying to swallow that every second, you're simply drinking a Dixie cup of information that you can handle every second. That's your left brain. It can only handle just a minuscule amount of what is actually happening in your personal universe right now. You can only handle this much. So if you don't quite understand that or believe that, go and read My Stroke of Insight. And she develops a blood clot right here in the left brain, and it squeezes out these normal functions, and she's left with only other parts of her brain to process all of the information. So that delete, distort, generalize is gone. And she just has a little, maybe a hair of that ability. And so the doctor comes into her room and talks to her. And about 6 to 8 to 9 to 12 hours later, she has an answer. Of course, the doctor's long gone. That's the state that you and I would be in every moment of our lives if we didn't have this wonderful tool of the left brain personality, which is deleting, distorting, and generalizing massive amounts of information all of the time. But that means you're not actually here. You're not actually living in this moment. Most of the time, you're not seeing the person in front of you. You're seeing a label of that person. You get to know that person, you create a box for them, you create a label for them, you box them in and you label them, and that is the part of your world that they exist in. Your wife comes in, your left brain labels her wife. Your husband comes in, your left brain labels him husband. Do you see their hair? No, you see the label. And then she comes back later, she says, why didn't you comment on my hair? I got all pretty, I cut my hair, and you don't even notice it. No, because you're living in your memory. Your left brain is constantly deleting, distorting, and generalizing all of this information, even the people you love and hold dear. Isn't that fascinating? And you're doing that with all of your life. So you're not actually living in the actual world. You're living in this internal map that your brain is creating. It takes the actual world and shrinks it down to a little map that you are living in. And we say, oh, I'm living in the real world. I'm here. No, you're not. You're living in that map. The map is not the territory. You believe you're living in a world which is real, and you're not. NLP says, no, you're living in a map. The yogis say, no, you're living in a dream world. Now, not so long ago, the doctors were studying what happens to the brain when you're tripping on drugs. You're in a deep hallucination, and they noticed it's lighting up your left temporal lobe, which is allowing you to live in this hallucination. Well, guess where you're living every second of your day? With the left temporal lobe lit up all the time. How do you function through life? By living a hallucination of the map which you believe to be reality, but it's not. It's a Niagara Falls out there, and you're drinking a Dixie cup. Oh my God, doesn't that blow your mind? Okay, great. What does that mean? It means whatever attitude that you hold, that's the portion you're going to notice in all of that information. If I have a bad attitude, I'm going to notice bad things. If I have a good attitude, I'm going to notice good things. If I am grateful, I will find more things to be grateful for. And that's the portion of the Niagara Falls of information which I will begin to live in. This is absolutely how manifestation works. You work your way into a different portion of the Niagara Falls of life, and suddenly everything has changed. Because your frame of reference has changed. Therefore, you're living an entirely different map. Isn't that profound and amazing? That also means what we perceive to be true is going to be based on our bias. And so we hold it so tightly, and yet it's just a dream understanding of a dream. It's my attitude and my bias about a dream world that I'm living in. And so to hold on to that perception rigidly is to hold on to a reality which is made of dream stuff. To hold on to a map which is made of dream stuff. There's a famous understanding about war and battle that you can make all the plans in the world, but as soon as you step onto the battlefield, all of that evaporates because suddenly the reality of that battle confronts you. And so you can make all the plans, but you've got to be flexible and willing to move and run and change when you meet the battlefield. That is your map of the territory meeting reality. And then maybe I should change this along the way. Of course, you have to change in that moment, right? And it's the same thing in a lineage like Kriya Yoga, in a lineage of Kundalini, in a lineage of meditation. If I hold that map rigidly, then I will find I get into trouble because I am not adapting to the moment which I find myself in. I don't want to hold everything so loosely that I just do whatever, right? That is probably following the whims of my ego. So I don't want that. But I don't want to be so rigid that that rigidness also is egoic. Right? I must follow it this way. That is also the ego. And so when I use a spiritual path, I want to use it with love and care and gratitude, and also hold it a little bit lightly and hold it a little bit flexibly. So I don't find myself becoming overly rigid. One of the ways I see this all the time is people say, well, so-and-so says I need to practice 200 Kriya every single day. And then so-and-so says I need to practice 400 Kriya every single day. Or I made a decision I'm going to do 108 Kriyas every single day. And then I start coaching these people, and they start finding some ease inside of themselves. They start finding some bliss inside of themselves. And I've even had people tell me, well, I found the bliss, but then I remembered, oh my God, I got to do the 108 Kriya. And I went back and I practiced all of these Kriya, and all of my bliss evaporated. That's right. That's right, because you were rigid, which is the left brain, which is being egoic. You were not flowing with what was happening. And I have to understand, what is this for? Okay, if they say I need to do this, what is this for? They say I have to do that. What is this for? What is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of doing all of that Kriya? Well, lots of HRV resonance is very good. Absolutely. A little bit of breath holds can be very good when they're very, very, very comfortable. Yes, absolutely. Sitting very still is very good. Absolutely. Om Japa in the chakras is very good. Absolutely. I'm going to do all of those things, all of that doing. But I also need to be present and enjoy the good results. So when the bliss arises, wasn't that the purpose of the Kriya? So why would I run over the bliss with more Kriya? Well, because I'm egoic and I'm rigid, right? So I don't want to be too loose and I don't want to be too rigid. I want to be present with what is actually happening. Notice the things which are actually happening. And that makes me a bit more flexible, doesn't it? From the first day that I met Ashokji, he told me, my purpose is to get you into the medulla. When you have a roll-up of consciousness into the brain, into the deep brain, and you can Google God, you can get your answers intuitively from the higher self. He says, my job is done. I am out of the way. And you are getting those answers directly, intuitively. Those intuitive answers will take us bit by bit by bit beyond the map of the world that we are living in. They're just intuitive enough. We follow 1, we follow 2, we follow 3. We test it. We make sure am I listening to my own ego? Am I listening to my subconscious? Or am I listening to some parental, intuitive, inspirational voice which is drawing me up, pulling me up out of the mud of life? Is that what I'm listening to? We test it out. We make sure that's what's happening. I'm getting pulled up. I'm not falling down more. That's our confirmation. We're listening to that intuitive voice inside. And that's taking us just a little bit past the veil of the map of the world that we are living in, the dream world that we are living in, right? That hallucination we call life, that intuition is taking us just a hair past it, over and over again. And a person in the world can't necessarily do that for us. They can give us hints, they can give us a direction, but the true guru will always be an internal experience. And that's why the Buddhists, I love they say this, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Not literally, but in your mind, kill him. Why? Because he's still outside. He's still part of the map. He's part of the dream, part of the hallucination. The true guru will always be the intuitive answer you find inside. So, gorgeous principle. The map is not the territory. We're living in a hallucination. We're living in a dream world. Isn't that fascinating? If we hold everything a little bit lightly, we start holding it correctly. Not too far here, not too far here, just nice, right in the middle. So I hope you loved this. If you did, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see all of you next time.